I believe the Denver Broncos just unlocked two secret weapons for this offense heading into 2025, and I have to tell you about them. Welcome in Broncos country to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. The first guy that we're going to talk about today, Troy Franklin, who feels like every single time that you open up Twitter or any news source surrounding Broncos training camp, he's in it in a positive way. Zach Stevens, first one on this whole sort of story, talking about how he had an incredible one-on-one series against rookie Jahdae Barron, who has also been lights out. But Troy Franklin really seems to have taken the jump from year one to year two, almost better than anybody not named Bo Nix. He goes on to say that the first throw of the team period, speaking of Bo Nix, was a rollout to the right, ripped it out to Troy Franklin, and it just looked effortless because of that Oregon connection. And I feel like that's something that Bo has really wanted to see improve heading into year two for the both of them. But Troy Franklin right now, really impressing. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of a deep dive into the analytics about how I believe he could be most used in 2025. Before that, it's our last day of our sub battle against the Chiefs. I know. We're only down by 3. So if you're a Broncos fan that wants free Broncos content all season long, and yes, we are in the preseason, hit that subscribe button. And if you don't like it after a week, you can dump it. No harm, no foul. But let me know if we can beat the Chiefs. Coming today, I want to check in back tomorrow morning and make sure that we have won this sub battle. Let's talk a little bit more about Troy Franklin. From a numbers perspective, it wasn't that great. And I feel like the first half of the season, even Broncos fans were like, man, this really is not progressing the way that we wanted it to. But then there was a little bit of a glimmer of hope towards the end of the season, right? Just that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that you saw, and you said, maybe this guy could be something. Well, he took that and he ran with it because the improvements so far have been unbelievable. So let me tell you about those improvements because you don't want to just sit here and be like, well, you keep saying he's improved, but how? Well, his breaks have gotten sharper and cleaner, meaning at the top of his route, when he goes to cut to the middle of the field or cut outside, that looks cleaner and sharper than it ever did last season. His footwork and his route tree bleeding into reason number 2 are clearly developing, right? Like he's becoming a better route runner as a wide receiver. His ball tracking looks better, meaning when that high point comes in, he knows exactly to keep his eyes on that ball and not anticipate getting hit, which leads you into that last one. His connection with Bo is also growing. Now, you might be wondering, well, where does he fit in on the Broncos depth chart? Like, where does he come into play with all of these wide receivers? Well, right now, he's not number 2 or even number 3. And I know we've been singing the praises of Pat Bryant as well. But Troy Franklin, every single practice now, is getting lauded by not only his coaches, the media, but also his teammates. Riley Moss had glowing things to say. So how do you use Troy Franklin in 2025? Well, in my opinion, there's one package that you can absolutely utilize right now. That's a shotgun 5 wide. Now, he's a little bit smaller, a little bit shiftier, so you could probably keep him at that H position or that F position. Meaning what? Well, he's closer to Bo for a very specific reason. Let's move on to shotgun trips left. Another portion where I feel like he can really excel. Now, he's not going to be the X or the Y in this case. He's obviously going to be the slot. But the reason I bring this up is because he can be a major distraction if you become the motion man. Now, what does that mean? Well, he's the guy that when Bo is calling out a play and shifting and calling audibles, you're going to see Troy Franklin dart from one side of the field to the next. He could be the ultimate mismatch in between opposing defenders. He can be the key distraction for opposing defenses. That's how you win with Troy Franklin. Because the way that he plays is going to be more out of the slot. He's not going to body a bigger corner on the outside. It's just not his game. But if you can get him to be the art of deception guy, someone that is always constantly in motion, throw it out to him in the flat, swing it out, screen, doesn't matter. Whatever that you can do in terms of a confusing other defenses, I feel like that's where Troy Franklin needs to be utilized in 2025. So last year, he only had 200-something receiving yards. It wasn't that great. Going to call a spade a spade. But 500 feels like the baseline for his yards, receiving yards in 2025. What do you think? Over or under? I have to think over. I know that people have been talking about how good he's been playing, but it really seems like he's a different player than he was at the beginning of his rookie season. Now, coming up, another wide receiver that I want to talk about, and this time more as a hybrid role rather than just his development as a wide receiver. And I really think you're going to like the style of play that I have chosen for him coming up in 2025. But first, a word from our sponsor. I'm in this new phase of my life, guys, and as I enter into marriage and start thinking about my family, life insurance is one of those things that I don't want to play around with, and that's where Ethos comes in. Now, with Ethos, you can get covered and protected for your family in minutes with rates at less than $23 a month. And like I said, as someone who's about to start having kids, it's at the very top of my priority list to make sure that my family and future family is covered. Ethos is revolutionizing the insurance industry with a 100% online process and can provide protection for you and your loved ones in as little as 10 minutes. They have 0 medical exams. Just answer a few easy health questions online. It is 100% online and it's hassle-free, making that process easy to apply. And by the way, you can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your home. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote today at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. One more time, just in case you didn't hear me the first time. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. I'll have all of that ready for you in the comments and description of today's video. Okay, so Zach Stevens, again, someone you're going to see quite frequently on today's show, said that when he talked to Marvin Mims, Marvin Mims said, tongue-in-cheek, that he is going to be getting some more running back reps this year. So he's going to be lined up in the backfield a couple of times. He also said that he didn't like getting hit by linebackers, which, again, kind of that wry sort of humor that he's looking for. But he said it with all smiles, meaning he's embraced this role for himself. Now, why on earth would you want Marvin Mims as a running back in the backfield at some times? Well, because he was rated the best gadget player in the NFL by ESPN. Remember this. We're not talking about just on the Broncos. The entire league, Mims was voted as the best gadget player because of his ability to do it on special teams. And last year proved in multiple scenarios that he was ready to take on that role as a punt and kick returner, but also as a wide receiver. Now, granted, 500 yards isn't amazing from a, wide receiver statistical standpoint, but he found the end zone 6 times, and he had 7 20-plus yard plays, meaning the explosion is there. The ability to create plays and stretch the field is there. But I feel like where he could be best utilized in 2025 is in more of like a Debo Samuel type role. Why do I say that? Well, not because they play the exact same style of football. Debo is obviously a much bigger, thicker, and stronger version of what Marvin Mims is. But Marvin Mims is faster. In fact, if you look at their 40 times, it's way, way quicker. Marvin Mims runs a 4.38, whereas Debo runs a 4.48. So Marvin is a much faster, sleeker version of Debo, kind of like a Debo 2.0. And I feel like if you were to, utilize what Debo does well, which is yards after the catch, this could be Marvin Mims coming into this season. I decided to break down all of Debo's strengths, and I feel like this graph right here really kind of indicates where he becomes a threat. If you discount 2024, Debo has been top 6 in yards after reception, per reception on balls thrown behind the line of scrimmage. I know it's a mouthful. But essentially, when the ball is given to him behind the line of scrimmage, whether that be a pass or a run, his yards after the catch is through the roof. That's where his bread and butter lies. That's how he makes his money. That hybrid YAC type of player. So when I look at Marvin Mims and I say, hey, where does he go this year? How do you utilize him best this year? Well, you can still keep him as a special teams player if you want. But I feel like his ability to get back into the backfield and make things happen behind the line of scrimmage is going to be exactly where his best performances are going to come through, if that makes sense. Now, before we end today's episode, a brief reminder that we are still 3 subscribers away, and it is our last day. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like the video if you haven't, and a special shout out to my producer Avery on the ones and twos, who's doing her very first video today. So she did a great job. If you could clap it up and spam Avery down in the comment section down below, that would be greatly appreciated. Until next time, my name is Moose. Be cool.